Look at you all. Look at you all. Who here loves stories? All right. All right. Thank you all for coming. This is so exciting. Now it's working, yeah? I can shout. I was a teacher. Are we going? It's not happening. Okay, how about now? So I will say again, thank you all so much for coming for this very special day. We're just thrilled to be here, and I want to start off by, and I'm Sarah Armstrong, Chairman of the Board of Storytelling Association of California, if you didn't know. And I want to start off by thanking StageBridge for allowing us and being so wonderful and supportive of us having this event here. And I want to have Eleanor please come up and say a few words. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to be here among all our storytelling friends here. I'm on the board of StageBridge and have been a perennial student for about 10 years. There are many people here who have been involved with StageBridge in classes or teaching. Liz was the very first storytelling director that we had here at StageBridge. And Ben and Liz have been instructors here as well. And Mary Gay was one of the first mentors of the Epic Storytelling Training Program, which I was lucky to be part of. There are a number of, StageBridge is a performing arts education organization for people over 50. And there are tremendous classes here every quarter from storytelling. This next quarter in the spring, Joel Ben Izzy and Wayne Harris and Ed Lewis will be teaching. There's Ed over there. The storytelling, but there's acting and there's tap dancing and there's a variety of mask making and comedy. There's a whole variety of classes that I want to invite you to look at on the website, stagebridge.org. Classes will begin April 13th, which is next week, but you can come and just see if you like the class and then make a decision for the next week as well. And then the pièce de résistance is a performing arts summer camp for people over 50. For many of us, that's how we found StageBridge and the classes. That will begin July 13th. The first week will be sampling of all kinds of workshops and classes, and the next week you can take a full intensive on one of those different topics. So I invite you all to be part of StageBridge, take classes. It's so fun to be among colleagues and to continue growing. So thank you for that. And then I do want to ask you, how many of you knew Barbara Johnson? Wow. Barbara Johnson was the heart of StageBridge, the face of StageBridge for 27 years. She was an incredible spirit. She had a generosity of spirit, a sense of humor, and she was a little can-do person for StageBridge. She passed away 2 days ago. And I wish we could take just a moment to think about Barbara and all the gifts she gave to storytelling and StageBridge. Thank you so much. And you can look at pictures of her in the atrium. Thank you again. Welcome to StageBridge.
Thanks, Eleanor. And as Michelle said, that we're sure Barbara's here with us today. So, and I don't want to mess this up. Oh well, okay. So thank you, folks who came earlier for the board meeting, either online or in person. And you heard the report from the Regional GEM people. Regional GEM is a program we've had at SAC for many years. On the even years, we honor a storyteller and not just someone who's been a storyteller, but someone who has supported storytellers, storytelling, and story. So it's a much broader topic or set of events for many years. And this year, because it's the even year, we're in Northern California. So next year we'll be celebrating this storyteller from Southern California. So get your nominations in early. So Claire Castell, Marilyn McPhee, and Tina Tomiyama are the committee that selects the winner, or the regional gem person. Claire has taken on this role this year and done an incredible job. Here we are today. Look at us today, what's happening today. So thank you, Claire. Now y'all are here with us to honor Liz Nichols. I guess I don't need to say anything else. That was just, so. But as you know, Liz has done many, many things for many years. She was on the SAC board for a while, a long time. She's a teacher, she's a mentor. She works with people at the Asian Art Museum on the Time Slips program for people who have memory issues. She's just been terrific and done so many interesting things, and we're delighted to be able to honor her today. So we have a plaque, a certificate. So Liz, if you would come on up. Super, and let me
Yes.
read what it says. It says, in recognition of Liz's leadership and commitment to promoting storytelling in the California Bay Area, she is awarded SAC's Regional Gem Award for 2026 by the Storytelling Association of California. Liz Nichols is an accomplished storyteller who has been pivotal in mentoring others and building community. She's managed the Contra Costa Tale Spinners local swap for years and currently volunteers at the Asian Art Museum Storytelling Program in San Francisco. Thank you so much. And Claire Castell, would you please come up with, of course, yeah, thank you. Yes, right. And we'd love to bring you these flowers too.
Oh, they're gorgeous. Turn around and be in the picture.
Yes, there you go.
Picture.
Of course, of course. So I think both can both go on that because we want Liz to have all the room she needs. And I'm so excited to pass you on to our Regional Gem 2026, Liz Nichols.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're so welcome. So I'm going to go right here.
Up. Let's see. Okay, can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, great. I'm verklempt, as they say. It's just thank you to SAC, of course, to Sarah, to Claire, to Tina, to Marilyn on the committee, and thank you to StageBridge. I am so humble accepting this award. There are two, at least, yes, regional gems in the room who I think we should honor. Tim Araneta and Jean Ellison. Jean, where are you? There she is. Are there any others? Oh, and Linda. I'm sorry, Linda. Linda Yamamoto. Did I miss anybody in the room? No, Sarah? You know, we have to wait for her to get off the board, and then she needs this honor big time, right? So send in your nominations. Wait until the following year. Okay. I wanted to show something. Well, even before that, I just want to go back. Eleanor asked us to have a moment to remember Barbara Johnson. Not everyone here knew Barbara, but everyone who knew her was just profoundly touched by her, profoundly. And she had so many wonderful qualities, and one that as the people have been talking about her and sharing was her smile and that spirit. And Barbara could smile and did smile even when things were tough. And so that makes me think about the power of laughter And a lot of you know I am also a laughter yoga leader, and there are some other laughter yoga leaders in the room. And that laughter, you know, I mean, right now, as Gay said to those of you who were here earlier, we're going through rough times. It's hard to find a reason to laugh. So what we have to do is laugh for no reason. And some of us are good at doing that, and others it's less comfortable, but I'm going to invite you now to do it. And when we do it together, it not only feeds our mind, body, and spirit, but it creates this energy. So let's start out with some of that. So laughter yoga is so easy. No spandex, no pretzel poses. It just, it's basically all it is you breathe, because you can't laugh without breathing. You move, we're going to move, because it's yoga. We're going to laugh, and then we're going to clap. So let's just start out. Put your one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, because those move when you breathe. If you want to close your eyes, do, and we'll take a deep breath in and just sigh it out. Ah. Maybe switch those hands, and it felt good. Do it again, and notice, like, how are you feeling? Mind, body, spirit. Breathe in, and and I hope people watching on YouTube are doing this too. You're included. All right, now let's breathe and add some movement to it. Now, if it works for you, I know we're in pews, but you should be able to lift your arms up and get a nice stretch, okay? But let us make this yoga by breathing and moving at the same time, very intentionally. So let's breathe in and lift our arms up as high as it feels good to you, and breathe it out. Ah, that feels good. Ooh, I need that. Wiggle around a little bit if you want. But now let's add laughter to that. And you can make eye contact with me. I'll try and make eye contact with as many of you. Or maybe you want to face someone if you want to try it. You could also just smile. But I give you the invitation that we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to breathe in, lift our arms up, breathe out, but instead of just sighing, just make the sound. Ha, 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 ha. Ho, 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 ho. He, 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 he. Whichever one you like, okay? But let's do it together. So here we go. We breathe in and lift our arms up. Smile and oh my God, wow. And it's almost hard to stop. So the last thing we do in laughter yoga is we clap, because that was so powerfully cool and fun. So you take your hands, we're going to clap in a rhythm. I'll do it once, then we'll all do it. Some of you know it already. You can do it right away if you know it. Very good. Very good. Yay! Let's do that one more time. Very good. Very good. Yay! All right. All right. So that's going to come in handy on my last story. So I'm going to ask you to help me again. Okay. Well, as I was thinking back over my years of storytelling, which is about 30 years, I found in my file cabinet this program, this little paper program from the Dominican College Storytelling Certificate in Storytelling program, which was in San Rafael. And I was part of the class of 1998. And guess who the MC of that performance was? Mary Gay Ducey. And of course, Ruth Stoddard was the founder and leader of that program for many years. So I'm actually going to, one of the stories I tell is going to be the story I told at the very beginning, and another is one that it's the newest story. But it says a tapestry of tales. And a lot of you know I love the old tales that are an old tapestry, but I've been thinking that it's not just a tapestry of tales, it's a tapestry of storytellers. And together we make smaller communities that come together to be the whole California storytelling community. And so I just thought, I want to see a show of hands. And if you're watching on YouTube, you could put it in the chat. Like, one of the storytelling communities that's been so important to me is right here, Stagebridge. So if you've been in any way connected to Stagebridge, let's see. Yay, okay. And then, of course, the Storytelling Association of California. Who's a member? Okay. But not everybody's hands are raised, so we're going to get to that later in this. Okay. Contra Costa Tail Spinners, which is one of the many swaps. Who's been to Contra Costa Tail Spinners? Yeah, all right. How about, the Bay Area Storytelling Festival. Raise your hand if you've been to the festival. Okay, so the festival's coming in 2 weeks. There's a big information on it. If you haven't been, you want to go. And some of us were on the committee, the planning committee together. Who's been on the planning committee? Some of us have been in a big time way in the planning committee, yeah. And then there's the Asian Art Museum. And so there's so many, if you look around, you see that people are raising their hands, some for one, some for two. Who's been part of the Asian Art Museum Storyteller Program? Some in the past, some in the present. All right. And, the Dominican College Program. Who's gone through the Dominican College Program? Ed, I don't even think I knew that you had. Oh, how cool. All right. Then there's Tell It on Tuesday. There's Epic Day Storytelling Pilgrims. There's 6 Feet Apart and Story Shuffle in Novato. Okay, anybody hands up? Yeah, so it's like, there's this thing called the regional gem, but a gem needs a setting in order to shine. And these are the settings. So now, I'm going to give credit where it's due for that because Joel Ben Izzy came up with that line. And a lot of you know Joel. He couldn't be here today, but he sends his regards. Okay. So, and by the way, those of you who didn't raise your hand at all, you are part of a storytelling community. Because raise your hand if you're part of the storytelling community at your kitchen table or at your family gathering, or are you part of the storytelling community that raises their voices to make this world better for the causes that you believe in? That is you being a storyteller. So as Gay said earlier, that's what storytelling is about. So, all right, well, I want to tell you first story is one that has to do with my connection to the Asian Art Museum. I've been doing the Asian Art Museum storytelling on and off for about 30 years. And one of the things, I grew up in New York City being taken to the great museums by my dad right here. And I'm an Asian studies major, so it's a great place for me. But the thing that I love most of everything is when I have a school group and there's a kid in the group, or maybe 1 or 2 kids, and they are different. So they might feel a little weird because their family worships differently or is coming from a different culture or speaks a different language. And they come into the museum and they see themselves represented and they see it honored and cherished and appreciated, and maybe they go away feeling differently. And that's when I feel like I was really in the right place to allow that to happen. And that actually happened to me. Now, you see, when I was little, my parents will tell you, my mom will tell you that I like to eat some weird things. And one of those things is that I like to eat dirt. And I grew up in New York City, so probably the dirt where I grew up was not as clean as the dirt where you grew up. And it was also sometimes hard to find. And so maybe that's why when my mother would take me as a toddler to the little playground right around the corner, I would make do with sand. You see, in the little sandbox, there would be the normal kids. There was, Linda and Julie, and they were playing with mud pies and having a tea party. And then there was Johnny and Billy, and they were hitting each other over the head with Tonka trucks. And then in the corner of the sandbox was this little Elizabeth kid. Sampling sand. Now, luckily for my mother, I grew out of that pretty quickly, and she didn't have to deal with that for too long, but it's the kind of story, the personal mythology that each of us has. There's the big myths, but then there's the myths in each of our families that sometimes we don't even remember, but other family members, make sure we don't forget. And so, but I had kind of forgotten about it until I met another kid. I encountered another kid who was very special and very different at the Asian Art Museum. Now, that kid I encountered was in a miniature Indian painting. The kind that have like incredible detail, like such fine brushwork and all these incredible colors, and you have to look at them very carefully. And on one wall was a very unusual one, different from a lot of the others, and there was a small figure in the middle. He had blue skin. I looked at the label, and that made sense because this was actually a wall of pictures of avatars of Vishnu, Vishnu, the great god of Hinduism, Vishnu, the preserver, and it was Krishna, one of his most beloved avatars. But there was a woman standing next to him, taller than him, looking down at him, holding a white cloth, and his mouth was wide open. It was incredible detail, but I didn't know the story. Like I'd heard, some of you have known about how Krishna, like all of Vishnu's avatars, was born to save the world from evil, from a demon who was disguising himself as a king, who had gone wild with ego and, well, I just can't say anymore, but, and who needed to be stopped, but no one could stop them. And so he was born, and like many a hero of this type, he was secreted away so that he could be hidden from this evil man and grow to be strong enough to have the power to defeat him. He lived in a little village of cowherds, poor village, with a foster family who loved him. Everyone loved him. Everyone loved him because, well, no matter how, he did all kinds of naughty things. You might know he stole butter from the cow girls and all kinds of things. But he also had great strength, and he defeated a serpent that was polluting the entire, yes, that we could use him now for that too. And so anyway, that was who it was. So I knew about that, but I didn't know this story. But when I found it out, here's how it went. Now, among the naughty things that Krishna did, one that I didn't know, he ate mud. He ate dirt. Now, I told you everybody loved him, but you know how older brothers and sisters can be? His older brother, who was often in charge of him, he was not putting up with this. Krishna, stop eating dirt. That's not funny. Stop it. I'm supposed to be paying, making sure you don't do anything wrong. Stop it. But Krishna didn't stop it. So finally, Balarama, his brother, said, I'm taking you to Mom. Mom, Krishna's eating dirt. Krishna, are you eating dirt? No, Mom, I'm not eating dirt. Krishna, I've got this white cloth here. Open your mouth. Open your mouth. I'm going to wipe it out. If there's dirt in there, I'm going to know, and you're going to be in trouble. And in that moment is what's in the painting. Krishna's looking up, and his mouth is wide open, and his mother's looking down. When she looks in his mouth, she does not see dirt. She sees the sun, the moon, and all the planets. She sees the entire earth with all the mountains, the people, the animals, the rivers, the oceans. She sees our universe and every universe, past, present, and future. Because Krishna is God, and God is everything. And she understands that for the first time, how powerful he is, how important he is. But in the very next moment, he closes his mouth. And in that moment, the understanding is wiped from her mind because it's not time yet for anyone to understand who he really is and everything he really is capable of accomplishing. That has to wait. Now, and there is the story that he does grow up and defeat the demon, but that's a story for another day. So the thing for me is that ever since I understood that story, now I can say, hey, when I was a little kid, I liked to eat dirt. And maybe that's why, that feeling of understanding, like, what's our hidden potential, that we can do things we don't know that we can. Maybe that's what gave me the chutzpah, shall we say, to go on a quest across the ocean, to search high and low for a cereal bowl. Now, not just any cereal bowl, the perfect cereal bowl, and my friends here know what I'm talking about. The perfect cereal bowl. See, I lived in Japan for several years. I studied Japanese history, language. I have a lot of Japanese bowls in my house. But I got this one set of bowls that turned out to be perfect for my heritage flakes and blueberries from Trader Joe's and for my husband's Cheerios and bananas. And it's because they're a little different. They're a little odd. They're bigger than a rice bowl, but they're smaller than a donburi bowl or a ramen bowl. And they're kind of shallow, but wide. And they also have this beautiful blue and white, very bold pattern on it that I just love, those Japanese colors. And they're perfect. But the problem is, 2 of them have broken since I bought the set. And what if the rest of them break? Well, I went looking for them to replace them. Where had I gotten them? I couldn't remember. I was sure it was Japantown, so I couldn't find them there. Maybe it was Clement Street in San Francisco, but they were not there. Kame, who's been to, somebody's nodding, yeah. Great restaurant supply store on Clement Street. So they weren't there. Well, maybe they were from Tokyo Fish Market even in the East Bay now that I live here, but they weren't there either. And so I had to go to Japan to look for them. Now, not really. I was in Japan with a small group of friends to celebrate 50 years since my first trip to Japan on a college student exchange program with my friend Leslie here, and her husband Pancho was on the trip as well. Anyway, that's why we were there. But I said to Leslie, as the trip was getting near an end, I said, I have to go to Kappabashi. You haven't been? You're going to love it. They've got everything. It is the biggest restaurant and kitchen supply district in the most mind-bogglingly big city in the world, Tokyo. And I said, you're going to love it, because she is, Leslie, you are the souvenir shopper extraordinaire. You're the champion. So anyway, we went. And oh my goodness, I mean, one shop after another, one block after another, there were the stores where every surface is covered with those incredibly sharp, incredibly expensive knives, those Japanese knives. There were the shops that had hanging, boldly colored cotton noren, those curtains that you hang in the doorway of your restaurant to tell everyone what kind of restaurant it is. And most cool of all, the plastic models that are incredibly realistic of everything from sushi to pizza. So, and we'd seen many shops with lots of ceramics in them. And I was just ready to keep going, but I could see that my companions were getting a little tired and a little hungry. And I thought to myself, this next shop, oh, please let it be in this next shop. And there, amongst all the shelves, it was all ceramics. There was a stack of bowls, and they were bigger than rice bowls and smaller than ramen bowls, and they were kind of shallow and wide. They were perfect. They had a wave-like pattern on them of blue and white, and I said, yes! And I had the store wrap them up very carefully, and I put them in my backpack, and I surrounded them with all my dirty T-shirts and socks, and you know what I mean, right? People, yeah. And when we got them on the plane the next day, I kept them, the plane could have crashed, and those bowls would have been fine. I got them home, and I opened it up, and they were fine. There was not a crack, there was not a chip. And the next morning, I had my coffee and my cereal in the new bowl, and next to me was my husband with his, Gary, with his coffee in one, and his cereal in one of the old bowls. And I looked, and you know, this bowl was fine. It was fine. It was not perfect, though. It was, well, the diameter was just a little smaller. And the pattern was just a little sort of softer, a little too subtle for my taste. But you know what? They were good enough. Just like sitting at the dining room table with my husband of 48 years, looking out at the same view we look out every day. Well, it's not always perfect, but it's good enough, and that is great. All right, so let me tell you an old Japanese story. I just have to say, thanks to Stagebridge for that story. At Stagebridge, it's never too late. It's never too late to try something new. A lot of you know I don't tell a lot of personal stories. I tell the old stories. But I took Joel Ben-Izzy's class, and it inspired me to come up with that story. I told it at Story Shuffle in Novato from 6 Feet Apart Productions, and now I'm telling it to you. And I practiced it in class, and now I'm telling it to you. So you got to come to Stagebridge. Okay. Okay. But some of you know how Japanese stories, the old ones, start. Mukashi, mukashi, long, long ago, aru tokoro ni, in a certain place, there lived a young man. This young man was born 3 times unlucky. First, he was born into the poorest peasant class. But I mean, so were millions of other people. That wasn't so bad. But his father was an inveterate gambler. His father wasted all his money and time playing dice and cards, and his reputation even amongst the gamblers was terrible because he had been known to cheat on many an occasion if that's what it took to win. But the worst thing, the third thing, was the boy's own face, because it looked as if someone had taken 2 sliding shoji screens and slammed them right on his face. And because of this young man, even though he was a hard worker, he was a good soul, he was worried he'd never be able to get married and have a family of his own. You have to understand back then the marriage customs. Let me explain this to you first. Like in many times and places, it was the families that made the match. The bride and groom might never even meet each other before they were betrothed, right? But they had another custom on top of that. And that is that, and maybe this was to kind of balance that out. You can decide for yourself, because for 3 nights before the wedding and the marriage was considered official, the young man would go under cover of darkness and visit his intended in her bedroom by themselves and go back home. And if everything was going well, then on the 3rd night, instead of going home, he would stay. And the next day, the wedding would be celebrated, and all the guests and all the, and it would be official. So that's the situation these people are in. All right. Now, one day, the father was maybe unethical, but he was not unloving, and he was certainly not unresourceful. And he kept his ear out, and one day he heard the gossip in the village that the matchmaker was looking for a husband for the richest man in the next village over the hill, for his only daughter, and that they were looking for a handsome husband. That was the most important. He did his thing, and he made the match. He went to the matchmaker, and he came home that day and found his son. His son was sitting, resting after a long day in the fields, and his father came back. Oh, meditai, oh, meditai. Exciting, celebratory, wonderful news. What is it, Father? Well, I have made a match for you. You have? Yes, and not only that, it's with the daughter of the richest man in the next village over. What? How did you do that? Oh, well, you see, son, they're looking for a handsome bridegroom. So I just told them that my son was Nippon Ichinobi Seinen, the fairest youth in all Japan. You did what? You did what? You did what? How did you do that? Ah, shimpai shinaizo, said the father. Don't worry. I've got a plan. Well, remember the 3 nights. You can imagine how nervous the young man was on that first night. He set out in the dark, through the rice fields, over the hill, down the path to the rich man's house, in through a beautiful gate, and across an elegant garden all set with stone lanterns. And then he stepped up onto the engawa, the veranda that goes around the outside of a traditional Japanese house. And as he walked along it, he saw that there was one place where the shoji screen doors were spread open just enough for him to come in. Ah, okay. So he went in. Now, the young woman who was waiting for him in that room, she was nervous too. She had heard she was going to get to marry the most handsome young man in all Japan, but after all, how important is that for all the years of a marriage, huh? Like, really? And besides, she couldn't see that handsome face, but even though he only stayed a short while, it gave her a chance to hear the kindness in his words and his voice. And both of them, they're beating a little faster. And by the time he left, she thought, maybe it would be all right to have him for a husband. The second night went pretty much the same. He stayed a little bit longer, long enough for her to feel that his arms were both strong but gentle. And by the time he went back home, she was thinking, I think I'm looking forward to having him for a husband. But now it was the third night, and the young man said to his father, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to be doomed. It's been going well. She seems to like me, and I really like her, but this time I'm going to have to stay, and the sun will come up, and everyone will see this face. How can it work? Shimpai naizo, said the father. I have it figured out. And he, told his son the plan. He said, look, son, you do your part. I'll do my part. And if we both do it the way we should, then by tomorrow night you will be a happily married man. If it's the last thing I do, he said. So that night it was father and son together. They went through the rice fields, down the path, over the hill, down the path to the rich man's house, and in through that magnificent gate and across. But as the young man started to go across that garden full of stone lanterns, his father had disappeared. But again, he stepped up onto the veranda. He went into that room. And, well, let's just say that by the time that young couple each fell asleep, drifted off, a good long while later, that young woman was well content to have that young man as her husband, as was he to she. And everything seemed wonderful. But then, in the middle of the night, there was something, a loud sound on the roof. There was like, And then a terrifying voice. I am the Oni of the mountain. Wait a minute. Let me try that again. I am the Oni of the mountain. Maybe you weren't scared because you don't know what an Oni is. But everyone in that house knew what an Oni is. An Oni is Japan's ogre. You know, tall as 3 people, blue or green or red skin, horns, fangs, claws, rippling with muscles, so big, and has a tiger skin for a loincloth. And they come down from their home in the mountains and they snatch up people to go back and do with what they will. And so everyone was cowering. I am the Oni of the mountain, and this young woman belongs to me. For 3 years I have been waiting for this auspicious day. And who do I find in her bed? You. Who are you? Me? Yes, you. Well, they call me the fairest youth in all Japan, Nipponichi no Biseinen, but for this you will die. Why should I die? I'm sorry. I wouldn't have ever been betrothed to her if I knew that she was promised to you. Well, you have a point. Let me think. Maybe there's something else I can take. Oh, anything. What do you want? Well, I could take your life, but I otherwise could take your looks. My looks? My life or my looks? My life or my looks? My life or my looks? At this point, the girl's mother, who's of course everyone in the house is awake, is shouting, let him take your looks. We want a human son-in-law. Oh, if I must, all right. Oni, take my looks. And then everyone heard a really horrible sound from the roof. It was like this sucking sound. And then the Oni was gone. But everyone rushed to the room, to the girl's bedchamber with lanterns. The young man was collapsed on the floor, but when they got him to sit up and they all saw, bring me a mirror, he said, bring me a mirror. They brought a mirror, he looked. Oh no. I can't live like this. I should have told the Oni to take my life. It's all, I did nothing to deserve this. It's all because I got involved in a very unlucky family. And the worst of it is to think none of you ever saw me the way I used to be. Well, by the next morning, he had been calmed down and he'd been propped up, and the wedding took place. The bride's parents were relieved. The groom's parents tried as best they could not to beam, and the guests just liked the food. But in the end, that young man wound up 3 times lucky. He got a long and happy marriage. He also got a beautiful big house built especially for him and his wife by his very grateful, very rich parents-in-law. And just in case, it was built very far from the Oni's mountain. As I said, just in case. Oshimai, the end. Well, before I tell one more story, I'm making a pitch to you all. You know, I am lucky, and so many of us are lucky, for all these communities of storytelling that we belong to, and they wouldn't exist without the organizations that support them, as we've heard. And so if you are a member of SAC, yay! And if you are not, this is an opportunity for you to show your appreciation and to support the power and the magic of storytelling. If you felt that today, there are pictures. There's pictures out in the lobby there. You could put in some money. There's even, is there a Venmo or a Zelle information out there? Yeah, out there. Or, and especially if you're watching this online, either live or later, just go to storysac.org and click the donate button, or click the join. There's a membership tab that you can click. So, you know, I just hope that you will, and all of us together lift up storytelling. So, all right. Okay, I told you that the laughter that we did at the beginning would come in handy at the end. I'm going to tell you a story that's called The Three Laughs. So I'd love it. It will work great if you help me. So let's just remind ourselves that we breathe. It feels good to breathe and move together. Lift up. We add a laugh, maybe make eye contact with someone for extra fun if you can. And we can save the clapping for the end. Okay. This story I learned from Doug Lipman, another one of the national gems who we lost this year from the East Coast. And he had a website of Hasidic stories, and that's where I found this. Now, so this is a story about the Baal Shem Tov. So some of you are nodding, you've heard the name, the Baal Shem Tov. He was the founder of Hasidism, a movement that started about 300 years ago in Judaism in Eastern Europe, at a time where the idea was that you should be in the study house if you were a man and study the texts all the time. But he was a mystic and a healer, and he promoted a type of worship that was much more spontaneous and could be out in nature, could be anywhere. You didn't have to be learned. And he would travel and preach like this message, and so he became known throughout the region. Baal Shem Tov, Baal, you can say it, Baal means master. Shem means name, and Tov means good. Tov. So master of the good name. And some people say that's because he knew the secret name of God, which most of us will never know, and because of that he could do miracles. And also that he was good. Anyway, he had a group of disciples who would gather with him and study and worship with him. And one of the most important times was Shabbat, was the Sabbath, which starts on Friday night. So you would do the blessings, and then you would have your meal together, and then afterwards sing and dance even. And so one week, his disciples had prepared everything really well. He had not been in a good mood. They could tell there was something, he was not himself. And so they wanted everything to be perfect. And they all sat down, and when one of the disciples was lighting the candles and saying the blessing over them, all of a sudden, the Baal Shem Tov, he just burst out. Let's try ha, ha, ha. He burst out. Ha, 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 ha. It was surprising, but they went on with the other blessings, and now it was time for the meal. They had worked so hard to have a delicious plate of chicken soup, as my grandmother would say. Not a bowl, a plate of soup. And a very shallow bowl. And they put it in front of him, and they were, is he going to like it? He took a sip, and he burst out laughing again. Let's try he. They all tasted their soup. There was nothing funny about it. They were very puzzled. And then, after the meal was over and they were all singing the songs, everybody was singing like la di da di da di da di da di da di. But he was going ho 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 ho, and he just laughed like he couldn't stop. And they were very puzzled. Now, the Shabbat ends with the Havdalah service on Saturday night, where you say goodbye to the spirit of Shabbat. And it was their custom that they would always have someone could choose a question to ask their master, the Baal Shem Tov. And that, sometimes they would argue, I want this question, I want that question, but not that time. That week, everybody had the same question. Why did you laugh? Not once, not twice, 3 times during our Shabbat. And as was his wont, instead of answering them, he was very good at the show, not tell. He said, come with me. And somehow all of them fit into his little carriage. And he closed the curtains, and his horses went, and they suddenly were like, they could feel that they were flying. And before they knew it, it had stopped, and the curtains opened, and they stepped out into a village they'd never seen, in a place they didn't recognize. And the Baal Shem Tov went up to the village leaders, and they knew about him, they'd heard about him, and he said, could you gather everyone in the village? And they said, certainly. And everyone started coming, but he waited, because there in the back came rather slowly an old couple. Now, they didn't look as nice as a lot of the other people who had come. Their clothes were old and worn, and they were stooped, and they just looked like they were on some hard times. But it was they who he called to the front. And he said, please tell everyone, including and especially my disciples, how did you spend this Shabbat? And the old man said, oh, well, maybe not so well. We tried, but you see, when we were younger, we had enough money to have a wonderful Shabbat every week. But this week, for the first time, we didn't even have enough money to buy candles. But my wife, she was determined. She was determined to celebrate Shabbat. And so what she did, she took out the candlesticks and she pretended to put in the candles. And she pretended to light the match and light the candles. And then she started saying the prayer. And when she did that, there was a flash of light that I saw. And I realized for the first time, the light that all these years, every Friday night, I thought was coming from the candles, it was also coming from her. And before I knew what I said, right in the middle of the prayers, I shouted out, I love you. I don't think that was right. Well, but what happened next, said the Baal Shem Tov. Well, next we usually have something to eat. But today, there was nothing except a crust of bread. But my wife, she took that crust of bread, she put water in the pot, she made it into soup. It was nothing but water and But when I tasted it, it was delicious. And it was nourishing. And I realized in that moment that the nourishment that I thought was coming every week, all these years from the soup, it was really coming from her and from our being together to celebrate all these years. And when I realized that, I jumped up and kissed her. We never do that in the middle of a Shabbat service. That's for Saturday morning, right? My daughters lived in Israel, so. That's what I did. I don't know why I did it, but I did. And what happened next, said the Baal Shem Tov, tell everyone. And he said, well, after that, nothing of a meal, which was everything, we sang the songs. And as we sang the songs, I was so filled with gratitude and love. Well, I just stood up and I grabbed her and we put our arms around each other and we sang and we danced all around the room like we've never danced before. And I realized that as long as I have her, I lack for nothing. And that's it. That's what we did. If I did something wrong, I apologize if we did something wrong. And the Baal Shem Tov turned to his disciples and everyone, and he said, do you see? There was such holy joy and love in that home on this Shabbat that I, all the way over here, over there, where we celebrated our Shabbat, I was here with them as well. And not only was I here with them, the angels in heaven were here. They heard, and they looked down, and they smiled, and they danced, and they sang. And then the Eternal One saw and heard, and the Eternal One laughed. And so he said to everyone, what better way to celebrate a special day than to laugh together? So let's do it one more time. Let's lift our arms, taking a breath, and so thank you everybody for being here. Thank you those of you who are here in person, those of you who are here online or later, watching later. I think we have to recall that story now for us, the 4 laughs. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, our gem. I just want to say thank you so much to Liz for such a lovely, lovely time together, now and always. And thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. Stay dry, stay warm, tell your stories. Thank you so much.